I'm Paul Sullivan, your host on the Company of Dads podcast, where we explore the sweet, sublime, strange, and silly aspects of being a lead dad, and where we're men, where the primary parents often feel they have to hide or at least not talk about the rules. One thing I know from personal experience is being a lead dad is not a traditional role for men, whether you work full-time, part-time, or devote all your time to your family. Parenting is so often left to mothers or paid caregivers. But here at the Company of Dads, our goal is to shake all that off and create a community for fathers who are lead dads, while also welcoming other dads who want to learn more from them. Today, my guest is Mike McGee, sports marketing guru, husband, and lead dad. Mike lives in Lake Nona, a booming golf community in Orlando, Florida. He has 2 kids, Will and Ava, and is married to the greatest female golfer of our generation, Annika Sorenstam. He grew up in a golf family, but played baseball. He went to work in sports marketing and ended up managing Annika's brand when she was at her peak. They later married, and now their son, Will, is on the junior golf scene. Mike is also the son of PGA Tour pro Jerry McGee, who won 4 times on the PGA. Mike, welcome to the Company of Dads podcast.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Okay, you and Annika are playing a few holes at Lake Nona after dinner. Have you ever beat her?
Maybe in a few holes, but not if we played more than a few. No, it's actually one of the times we enjoy playing together in the evening when it cools down a little bit here, early in the morning. The 4 of us will go out, Ava and Will, our kids. And it's usually the boys versus the girls, because Annika's obviously much better than me and Will's better than our daughter, although she has some talent, but she doesn't play much. So we have a fighting chance with Will by my side.
Does Annika ever give you a putt, or does she make you putt everything out and sort of trash talk along the way?
No, she doesn't trash talk, but she's fair. I'll say she's tough, but fair. Where she's really nice is she'll offer help. You know, I'm an 11 something index, but really I don't get to play a ton. So I would say I'm closer to a bogey golfer at this point. You know, I say I'm a 15. So she'll be fair with the strokes and offer help, you know, with my swing or whatever, but I'm not going to put the time in to put it to good use. So I tell her not to waste her time.
Focus on the kids.
Yes.
Tell me, what did you do in the decade before you went to work for the Annika brand? Tell me about your career up to that point.
Yeah, I was blessed. My dad that you mentioned, Jerry McGee, played the tour for 16 years, played in the Ryder Cup in 77. And he left the tour. I had a normal childhood, grew up playing football, basketball, and baseball in Northeastern Ohio. But right when he turned 50, he was fully exempt on the back then it was called the Senior PGA Tour, now the PGA Tour Champions, to go out and start playing. And he did so right when I went to college, little school in Ohio, Mount Union. And I loved every bit of the tournament scene, went to a ton of events, and changed my major immediately to sports management with marketing emphasis. Yeah. And went to work the day after I graduated with a company called Executive Sports that Jack Nicklaus owned. We managed, 50 plus events on all the tours. I would maybe work 15 a year. A lot were LPGA events. That's how I met Annika way back when. I left that in 2000 to go to San Jose, and we started a Champions Tour event called the Siebel Classic, and the Sharks hockey team owned it. So I worked in the arena there. Did that for 2 years, and then went to Florida and worked for Ken Kennerly, who's still one of my favorite people in the world. Also a great dad as a player manager. It was called International Golf Partners. We managed about 25 guys on the tours, and I was the road warrior traveling around looking after their businesses. And Annika at the time was with Mark Steinberg, who had Annika and Tiger, and she needed a day-to-day person because he was so busy with Tiger stuff. And the guy they gave her with IMG didn't work out. And so I was fortunate. We started seeing each other in 2005. And by the end of 2006, she said, "You're doing the exact same thing I need for all these other guys. Why don't you just do it for me?" And so I left and did that. And eventually we left IMG and we just do our own stuff now. And I've been the luckiest guy in the world ever since. She's a far better person than she ever was golfer. She's a great mom. She's a great partner. She's just a great boss. She's awesome.
Yep. And when did it go from being somebody who's helping her out with her career to somebody who how do you ask Annika out on a first date? Like where did you go? How'd you do that?
That it was very serendipitous. I was at Sarah Epoch's birthday party in probably 2003. Hadn't seen her in a couple of years. She was there with her husband at the time. And she had gotten so famous that people at this private party literally lined up to say hello to her. And I kind of hung back. I didn't think she'd remember me. And she got to the end and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And gave me a hug and said, what are you up to now? And I told her I'm managing players, working for Ken. And she said, "Do you have a card on you?" And I gave her a card. 2 years later, I'll break it down as quickly as I can, but get into the detail. I wanted Delta miles. My colleague wanted Continental miles. So we're going like this to get to the Tucson Open, where we had 8 guys playing. And so I was stuck in Atlanta with storms almost all day. And so I was in the crown room. I had time to go through my email, even my spam, glance through to see if anything was there that shouldn't have been. And I saw this email that said, "Hey, Mike, cleaning out my office, found your card. Just thought I'd touch base. All the best, Annika Sorenstam." Of course, I think it's a buddy busting my chops. I just read she'd filed for divorce, but I hadn't been in touch with her for a couple of years. And I write back immediately, "Sorry about what you're going through. If this is really you, good luck with everything," or whatever. And she writes back immediately, "No, it's really me." And I get to Tucson, and this is where it got very weird, because the next day I waited till about 4:00 on a Wednesday when the reps are leaving. And I went and asked the Callaway rep, Barry Lyda. I said, "Barry, I got a funny question for you. Is this Annika's email?" And he said, "Yeah, but you know her." I said, "But not the email." He said, "Yeah, that's her." And at that second, she's hitting balls in Orlando, driving it badly, which doesn't happen.
Right.
Slams her driver on the ground, which doesn't happen. And the little Callaway Chevron B like bent or broke off or something, which also doesn't happen. She called Barry to ask if that's going to affect the swing weight.
So you were standing next to him when she called to say,
"Yes,
what's wrong with my driver?"
Yes.
And did he say, like, "You won't believe who's standing next to me right now? Mike's standing right next to me"?
He said, "I'm standing here by Mike McGee," and he put me on the phone. I was like, "Sunshine, what's happening?"
And that was it.
And I had the next 3 weeks of the Florida swing at the time coming up with being with these tour guys literally for 3 straight weeks. And she was leaving for Mexico the next Monday, and I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks as well. And so I said, "You want to go to dinner Saturday?" And we did. And in fairness, she was in a bad place, heartbroken, going through divorce, everything. And we were friends, and we stayed in touch. And I was just there as support. And then literally, probably 3-4 months later, it kind of turned the corner and became more of a romantic relationship per se.
That's wonderful. So, Annika famously stepped down, in her prime, number 2 player in the world, to start a family. And we're talking, over the summer now, shortly after, Serena Williams announced that she was retiring for tennis to, among other things, be, more involved with her family. And lead dads, we do a lot to support, our wives, to be there for our children, still fulfill our own potential, whatever our own careers may be. But when you think about it, and you have deep knowledge in the golf world, is the sports world particularly or uniquely unforgiving for athletes who want to have a family and still, be at the top of their game?
I would say it's more unforgiving for female athletes.
Yeah.
They want to have babies. The LPGA does a great job with supporting the women. They have the Smuckers daycare, which steps up and takes care of kids while they're playing, and they do a super job. But in general, obviously, it's harder. Some players have gone the surrogate route. It's difficult because you're in your prime, but you want to start a family, and you either got to step away and come back, or some people find it's hard to come back. And I couldn't imagine Annika trying to play when we had a 1, 2, 3-year-old. And I give credit to these ladies that do that, whatever sport it is.
Right. I always think, again, on a lighter note, like some of the best branding or brand alignment I've heard of is Smuckers sponsoring that childcare program. So I know I've talked to several LPGA players, and it's the same women, same caregivers travel week after week. So those kids really get a rapport. Yeah. Your dad, Jerry, we talked about, he won several times on the PGA Tour, including my favorite hometown tournament, the Greater Hartford Open, now known as the Travelers. You talked about, when you're in college and he went on the then senior tour. But what was it like, when you were younger? What was it like having a touring pro as a father?
It's interesting because he was off the tour by the time I was 7.
Okay.
And so I remember things. I remember going to Kings Mill and riding the Loch Ness Monster at Busch Gardens. You know, I remember SeaWorld at every stop. I was a big SeaWorld fan. Yeah. I'll describe places to my mom and she'll say, my gosh, that was Hilton Head. You were 6 or whatever. So I remember a lot of things. And I remember the players like Andy North's kids were my friends, Raymond Floyd's kids. And so it was fantastic getting to travel around. My mom was the best tour wife, the best mom possible, still is. She did everything for me and got up early with me and took me around to playgrounds and museums and did everything all day long so my dad could focus on his work. Yep. And I think that's a lot in me, why I knew that I had the love in my heart and the ability to support Annika. I mean, I lived it. It's about the kids and it's about supporting your spouse. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah. What did he do from sort of, the 10 years between when he got off the PGA Tour and went on the senior tour?
He was a director of golf at a place called Oak Tree Country Club, which was about not quite an hour away from us. So that's why I never really got into golf. In Ohio, a little town, you play football, basketball, and baseball. A lot of kids could play any of them at a small school level. I was all set to go to one school to play basketball, another to play football, and ended up at Mount Union to play baseball. The funny thing is Mount Union's an amazing football school. And I went to play baseball. I was going to go to Marietta and be quarterback, and they're an amazing baseball school. So it tells you I wasn't that good at either one of them. But so in the meantime, I never, I wasn't around the game a ton. I'd go over see him sometimes. I played a little bit, and but it was really, the game almost became a penance to him when he was finishing up his regular tour career. He had hypoglycemia. He was kind of hyper and excitable guy on the course anyways, I suppose a polite way of having a temper. And when he struggled, it was tough on him, and he almost didn't want us to be part of the game. So my sister and I were never forced into it. I wish he pushed me a little bit, so I'm consistently shooting the 70s now anyway.
Right.
But I was very blessed to have a dad that was athletic, that supported me, came to a lot of my games when he could. And but we really, really bonded traveling on his senior tour time. That opened my eyes to the golf world, to hard work, to everything that I'm blessed to do now. I give him credit for showing me the way and showing me how to do it and showing me how to work hard and fight for what you want. And he passed a year ago. So,
yep. You said that from him and your mom, you sort of learned a lot of lessons, and you said that you've really prepared you for, what you've, been able to do with Annika and your kids, and really be there, still have a career, but really be supportive. Was there ever, did you have a discussion when you and Annika got together and you were going to start your family as to how things would be divided up, or was it something that happened? It just happened?
No, we did not really. It just kind of organically happened. But I did have a discussion with my mom when I started seeing her and truly turned the corner in our relationship. I didn't even want my dad to know, because it's such a small world, the golf world. I knew he'd brag to his friends, and then it would get back to her, like, oh, we're dating, huh? I mean, here she is. You asked, how do you ask the number one player in the world out? That was the height of her fame. That was after shooting 59, Colonial, getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, winning 13 times, 12 times, 11 times. And so, but it was easy for me because we knew a lot of the same people. We ran in, the similar circles with golf. But my mom, I mentioned to her this, and she said, that's great, honey. She seems like a wonderful person. And she knew that I was in it for the right reason.
But you said don't tell Dad. Is that it? Whatever you do, don't tell Dad, because he's going to call up like Ray Floyd or Andy North and blow this for me.
Exactly. I said, for now, don't say. And she said, I just want you to remember one thing, and you'll be fine. And I said, what's that? She said, every relationship has a king, and every relationship has a queen. Sometimes the king's the queen, sometimes the queen's the king. And that is so true. Such valuable advice. I know she's the dominant one in our relationship. She's the breadwinner. She's strong, and I support her in every way I can. And I'm proud of that. And I love it. And happy being a stay-at-home dad when she's got to go to Asia for trips or sponsor outings or our foundation events or anything. I do whatever we can do. You know, the trips that I used to go and schmooze and network and try to do more deals. A lot of times now I'm staying home with the kids because I know it gives her peace of mind. So I just kind of do whatever she wants, really. But I mean, she's great. She's respectful. We work hard. We work together. I mentioned we share an office and we're back and forth all day long, whether it's our foundation. We have 7 global events for junior girls. Spend a lot of time on that stuff. She goes to every one of the events. I don't get to go to all of them. But then we just started this sparkling classic cocktail called Fizzy Bees.
Right.
Sweetened with organic honey, these Cosmo Margarita Moscow Mule Mojito. And that's been like my 3rd full-time job recently. So we are
none of those sound like popular drinks in Sweden, if you ask me. I don't know. Like,
yeah, they're popular everywhere.
You got to get the transfusion. You got to get the classic golf cocktail in there.
Exactly. So that'll be part of line 2 once we get there.
Yeah. You know, I think any lead dad can identify with what you just said, and the way your mom put it is really true. But I think for a lot of guys, it can be, you know, difficult. You know, money and masculinity are intertwined. You know, you are married to, you know, the greatest female golfer of all time. But I mean, you know, some of your buddies, you who you travel around with, I mean, did they ever, you know, give you any crap about this, or is it just yeah?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I laid down the law immediately. They would call me Mike Sorenstam or Mr. Sorenstam. I said, listen, we don't use the word Sorenstam in anything we do. The entire brand is built around the one word Annika, which she became, you know, in the mid 2000s. So everything is Annika. Please call me Mr. Annika. But I do have a funny story though. We were at this Callaway Invitational that used to be at Pebble Beach in probably the late 2000s. And my dear friend, Andy Bush, who is married to Morgan Pressel, and runs Outlier, a golf company management company that has a bunch of tournaments on the LPGA Tour and handles some corporate stuff. And he said, I'm buying you a drink. I said, I'm buying you a drink. Come on. I mean, we grew up working together at Executive Sports. So for 3 years, we worked together, you know, went our separate ways. And now we're both married to LPGA players. And so I was used to the crap. He was used to the crap, but we hadn't really talked about it together. And we were at this little bar at Spanish Bay, you know, right? And he said, I'm buying. And so I said, fine. Okay. So he wins the check. And the lady says, what room number? And he says, you know, 212 or whatever. And she says, thank you, Mr. Pressel, and hands him the we both cracked up because we loved it. You know, we're proud of it, but it just made me laugh to see somebody else deal with it.
So I've had this happen a million times because my wife has a different last name. Pollock is her last name. And whenever we travel, she'll book it through her American Express. And so we show up at the hotel and it's not Paul Sullivan. It's at the front desk. It's Paul Pollock. And then you'll get somebody who mispronounces it and says, you know, where are the Pollocks? Who are the Pollocks? Like, and my daughters are all we have 3 daughters. Jeff Sullivan is the last name. They're like, who are we? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we called?
Yeah.
Tell me, what's a typical day like for you with work, kids, with, you know, being a husband, having fun? What's a, you know, typical day in the life of Mike McGee?
Yep. We have, you know, that's the funny and the fun part. We have many different typical days. I would say the school week when we're both in town, which was today, our kids started 6th and 8th grade Wednesday this week. So today was my turn to take the kids to school, but we get up, you know, 6:30 or so. Annika's the cook, so she'll start organizing for breakfast. We'll take turns making the lunches for the kids. They'll come down. We'll hang out, talk to them a little bit in the morning. One of us will work out, and we all have breakfast together. That's one of our keys. We always do that. And then whoever turn it is to take them to school. Today was my day, so I take them to school. She went to practice. She has the U.S. Senior Women's Open coming up in 2 weeks. And then she came back right around when I got back. Today's a busy day. Every hour on the hour, we have calls or Zooms or something. So we do that together. We'll have, you know, grab a snack together. Yeah. And then either she or I will pick up the kids. And then she and Will probably play a few holes, and then we'll get together and have dinner and maybe have a glass of wine and hang out in the evening. And it's really family first. I mean, we are together nonstop when we're here. which is most of the time. So it's always family first, and we literally ham and egg everything we do. Now, a lot of times, she'll have a photo shoot or shooting social media content or a sponsor day or traveling to an event. And then it's a little different. My mom lives nearby and she'll help with the kids. And Annika's parents are here. Her dad will drive a little bit, maybe driving to school or something if I'm out of town with Annika. And my mom stays with them. We have a great assistant named Crystal who is there for personally and professionally, whatever we need.
Mm-hmm.
But we are extremely hands-on and just, we're honestly like every normal family there is.
Yeah. Yeah. And we know that Will likes to play golf, but what's your daughter Ava like to do? What are some of the things that are fun for her?
Yeah, she plays, and she actually plays well. She can rip it. Very, very solid swing. I wish I had her swing. She enjoys makeup, and she's a little more girly like that, like skincare products. And she always wants to do Annika's makeup and hanging with her friends. She likes to work out. She'll bike or swim or go in the gym we have, and but hang with her friends. She was playing volleyball for a club team. We let her talk us into letting her quit so she could focus on golf, and she railroaded us on that one. hasn't quite had the focus we want, but she's trying. So
yeah, good. This has been wonderful. One last question. You've caddied for Annika. You caddied for her, last year at the U.S. Senior Women's Open, which you won at Brooklawn, which was amazing. And I know the kids were there. And you've caddied for Will. He was at Pinehurst recently. Who's more difficult to be on the bag for? Like
I can't answer that one.
You can't. That's why you're such a smart guy. I like it.
Yeah. No, they both are great. They really are. Annika, my dad, bless his soul, he was the hard one. If he'd say like, "Man, you're putting well today. Gee, you're not gonna miss everything. You jinxed me," type thing. Annika's far from superstitious, but they are both grinders. I love it. He got that from her. They never give up. They fight to the end. They may get mad initially, but they're not, overt about it. They don't show it much, and they'll stomp to the next shot, but they'll overcome it and they'll come back strong. So very proud of both of them, both of their work ethics. Will, bless his heart, he was 50 yards behind these guys on most holes. Kind of like when Annika plays the celebrity events, she's hitting 5-wood in the holes and they're hitting 8s and 9 irons. But they're just scrappy and resourceful and keep fighting. And I love that about both of them, and positive at the end too.
That's something you said that you can imagine both being grinders, but you sort of a little behind the scenes story. So last year, when I interviewed Annika at Brooklawn, she then hit, a ceremonial tee shot off the first tee. You were there, and then your son, he's a lefty, so he gets on the other side. He does it. But we were all sitting there with the USGA people, and I was like, "Where are they? Like, where are they? I don't know. Where are they? Like, they were warming up. Like Annika and Will were both warming up." I was like, "Are they playing 18?" It's like, no, they're just hitting the shot. And it was like, wow, this is like the intensity is like we couldn't even see where the ball went because it was an overcast day, and there they were and I think that's kind of probably the heart of a champion, like warming up even for something as easy for them as just hitting that first tee shot.
Yep, that's true. And I remember Will hit it. I thought it was a good drive. I popped that up and he was mad walking off the tee. I was like, buddy, all these people here just saw it get in the air. They think that's great.
That's all we knew. Yeah. Mike McGee, thank you so much for being my guest on the Company of Dads podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
Me too, Paul. Thanks for having me, and keep up the great work. I like what you're doing.